Hey, I haven't done one of these for a while, so let's do a city council update since it's 1 in the morning on July 17th. Just got done with the city council meeting. Two really integrated topics that we had today, first in the committee of the whole and later on in the council meeting, basically dealing with heritage preservation, where we are now, where we can be in the future. A number of folks for a long time have been talking about getting a heritage preservation ordinance in the city, and I've been working very hard towards that goal. At the same time, there have been some special interests that have been trying to stop at every step of the way and not really willing to be a partner in developing a good ordinance. So we had, and unfortunately, after the committee meeting today, I was left thinking that when it comes to heritage preservation in the city of Rochester, we're dealing with special interests versus special places. And it shouldn't have to be the way, but that's the way it is right now. We are going to go forward with a public hearing on the topic, and we're interested in getting feedback on that. What I've heard from my constituents, not entirely, but almost everyone has contacted me, is strongly in favor of a strong preservation ordinance with enough teeth so that our buildings stop getting bulldozed in the middle of the night. And I think that's something that we owe it to the community to do. One thing that was discussed in the meeting today, though, was that specifically, an ordinance like this, it's aimed at long-term planning and preserving the assets we have, understanding the assets we have, and not 11th hour saves of buildings in the throes of demolition. And which kind of relates to the topic we had this afternoon, in that there's been a lot of interest in the Williams house, and I had no idea the history behind the house. I knew it was a very attractive property from the outside. But the reality is, local developer Mac Hamilton did purchase that property, and it's an R2 zone property, and that, along with another property next door, is being considered for a project which was initially called Fifth on Fifth. I think that's the name that everyone was still using tonight. But there's a lot of concern about the process and the massing of the building, and one of the things that keep coming up in discussion of this site is the fact that there's so much history, and this is such an attractive property, and it's been a part of this community for so long, and it means a lot to a lot of people. But we don't have a heritage preservation ordinance. We had nothing in place when the developer purchased the home that would indicate that this was a protected property, and this should have been a protected property. We should have had an ordinance 50 years ago and saved some of these properties, but we didn't. So now we're taking steps to start preserving, and I think it's going to be in the community's best interest to do that. What we'll have to do going forward is figure out how to clearly communicate our expectations when it comes to historic properties like the Williams house. Now, if we had an ordinance in place a long time ago, we would have identified houses that have historic meaning or significant architecture for the community. We didn't do that. The Williams house would have likely been protected, and quite frankly, when Mac Hamilton was shopping around for properties he could potentially redevelop, he would have taken a look at this one and probably taken a pass because it was clearly a very historic property. Now, at the last minute, there are a lot of things that we should discuss, and whether or not to do a zone change or what projects should be allowed, but unfortunately, heritage preservation is not one of those things that we can really be considering. In the future, we hope to change that with a strong ordinance. With the discussion tonight, there was a lot of discussion about what fits the neighborhood and what does not fit the neighborhood. And I encourage people, if they have an interest in this topic, go walk around the block. At basically the intersection, the northwest corner of 6th Avenue and 6th Street. Just walk around that entire block and get a feel for the neighborhood. There's a lot of concern that was being proposed, and granted it was just the zoning discussion tonight, did not fit with the character of that particular block. And I think there's a lot of merits to what's being said. At the same time, we have a developer that owns a couple parcels right there, and without any zone change whatsoever, it can turn into a parking lot. As such, I've encouraged neighbors to work in good faith with the developer to try and see if there's something that they can come up with that meets the needs of the neighborhood and the needs of the community. And also, we have a downtown master plan that's guiding influence for that. So, without saying what I would or would not support, just a few things that are important to me. When we did the 2nd Street guidelines or the Urban Village guidelines, we actually specifically looked at building height, and we wanted to cap the building height at about 1/2 the width of the right-of-way. Something to consider in this site. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's something that gives approximate good scale to place. The 2nd Street corridor study basically said that when you're coming back and meeting with existing single-family homes, you want to be no more than 2.5 to 4 stories. Well, on one side this building was 59 feet. Another thing to keep in mind. The downtown master plan also talked about breaking up some of the density downtown with pocket parks and plazas and shared green spaces, and the proposal as it stood previously had the green space hidden behind the building. And the master plan also talks about a quality pedestrian experience. And basically what it's saying is you take the nice stuff, you put it in the front, you have nice entrances, you maybe have the green space in the front, and you take the ugly stuff and you put it in the back. That's your utilities, your garage door, that kind of stuff. You want to make a place that's good for people to walk by, and a good, pleasant place to be in the neighborhood. We got to make sure the scale fits the surrounding area of anything that would go forward. And there's no guarantee that anything will go forward. Maybe nothing happens, maybe this sits there. Maybe the homes just get demolished and it sits there empty. Maybe it's a parking lot. And I think the thing is, right now there's no protections in place, and there's not likely to be any way to put protections in place because we don't want to be retroactive when we do things like heritage preservation. Boy, I can't say enough good things about the neighborhood. I mean, just the presence that they have there. They clearly care about their neighborhood, and there's nothing more frustrating to me than when something comes up that could potentially be controversial and nobody shows up. We had a pretty packed room at 12:30 in the morning. That is just outstanding, and to the historic Southwest neighborhood, all I can say to you is kudos. In particular, Candy Williams, you were absolutely spectacular. Your presentation was very good. And I did say a lot of nice things about the, just the fact that this is a place where people want to develop, and that we need to be accommodating in so much as it meets our long-term vision and meets what's acceptable in the neighborhood as well. So from here, where do we go? I've offered myself as a potential moderator. I know Mr. Bilderback or Staver would be welcome to do the same thing, but if there's something that we can come up with that's going to appease both the neighborhood and make sense for the developer, it'd be wonderful if we could come upon that, and the sooner we did that, the better. This is going to be a real challenge, and I know there are some people that won't accept anything there but what's there now, and that's probably not going to happen no matter what this decision is. And, quite frankly, there are people that, it's downtown, put a 12-story tower up. Well, that one, over my dead body on that one, I guess, but, I think the downtown master plan has a lot of vision in there. What's missing right now is that we had a recommendation in there to come up with some form-based zoning which deals with some of these specific issues. And we also had a recommendation to have some sort of a site review committee. What's so scary about just changing to R4 is that allows a whole lot of things to go on with just approval at the counter at planning and zoning. And, as favorite quote from Ronald Reagan that he said, trust but verify. And that's the danger with going to R4 without any conditions in place, is that there are a lot of things that you could do with no additional oversight or approval from the city council, and that, I think, scared the neighborhood. Some people who talked to me from the neighborhood, that scared them quite a bit, and probably rightfully so. I think the intention of the developer is to do the right thing here and do a project that the neighborhood could be proud of, but there's you always want to make sure that you protect against the unforeseen or the difficult circumstances that might arise, or maybe another owner. So, very long, exhausting meeting. Appreciate the neighborhood turning out in such force. Appreciate all the good information brought forward by the developer as well. And we'll see where we go from here. But this issue of heritage preservation is not going to go away. So if it's an issue that you care about, be talking with your city council members, because I assure you we're going to get lobbied by special interests as well. And, that doesn't... But we can overcome that too. If it's something that you really care about, I mean, the street tree ordinance was delayed for 7 years, and I think there's some people who'd quite frankly like to take the same approach with this. And I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. I don't want to be Mississippi. I want to live in a great town with great neighborhoods. The historic Southwest is an absolutely great neighborhood, and I intend to keep it that way. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to go see if I can't get some sleep now. Bye-bye.